You want to say IODK on set with me for our Mental Health Matters Thursday, and today a very interesting one. We are dealing with Pothole P.T.S.D, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Correct.
Wow, where do we start, Johan? Say welcome as always.
All right, so let me break down post-traumatic stress disorder quickly, right? Post-traumatic, post meaning after. So after you experience some kind of trauma, or even the perception that you're going to experience trauma. Stress, we know what stress is, and a disorder is any condition or illness that lasts a certain duration that disrupt your mental and your physical movements.
I always hear that term being thrown around for soldiers who, you know, just basically would have finished a particular campaign, the outer war, and they might be somewhere in a muffler, make a noise or something, men jumpy, PTSD, or they have another name for that too, huh? But I've always heard of that kind of scenario.
But the old school term was shell-shocked.
Yes, shell-shocked, yes, right. Potholes could bring that on, I would imagine, because we all, every Trinidadian might come in a pothole. So just feel it in your soul, you know.
When I first noticed it, right, it was, so I live in Central, and there was a pothole there for years. So people learn how to drive around it. Even when I make my run, I know how to maneuver around it. When they filled it, I noticed people still driving the same way, still doing the same thing. And even for me, I was like, okay, it's not there anymore. But I got so accustomed to it, right? And then I realized that potholes, because one is damage your car, either way, whether it's a deep one, a shallow one, etc., that your shocks, that your bearings, that's your mount, etc. And because, so let's use the trauma part of it, because you're saying it touches your soul. When you hit the car, you don't know what necessarily happened, but you think it damaged your car, whether it did or not, right? That your rims, that your money, etc. So one, that's a bit of trauma there, or perceived trauma. So now every time you see that pothole, you remember either when you fall in it, or you'll be afraid, I don't want to fall in it. So now it becomes part of your psyche. So if we drive in the same routes every day, then now we're anticipating it. And also sometimes I see some potholes and I know if I go down in that, I'm a tire going one time.
I could only imagine, because I know of folks who would have lost tire, damaged bumper. I remember the video recently on Frederick Street. Remember, they was trying to take the man out of the pothole. He was in a sinkhole, and they were trying to pull the man's car, and within the process, the whole bumper ripped off.
That is true.
So I was saying to myself, you know, yes, people had a good laugh. It was a social media trend. It went viral. But he had to face the music that morning, the next morning.
Correct.
To go to a street now to I guess, shell out probably thousands.
And let me guess you, potholes is not a laughing matter, because if we're talking about the general mental health of the country, if everybody have to perceive and remember and maneuver potholes around the entire country, that in itself could be stressful, and you're doing it every day. And I remember once I was driving with my wife, and a man swing from a pothole, and she said, well, why he so angry? And I was thinking about it, and he must be angry because if every day he's seen his pothole, and he have to maneuver. And I know some people who even get into accidents maneuvering from potholes, right? Now, we may look at potholes sometimes as a small issue, but if you're looking at the general mental health of the country, if this is something that everybody have to perceive for, to almost anticipate every time, that is stress on everyone, right?
Yeah. And you know, even when folks considering a vehicle, you're seeing more and more folks now going for, again, it might even be out of your bracket, but you will try to aspire to get a van. You want an SUV now, you're trying to move away from a sedan because you anticipate, and your purchase is being guided by the conditions of the road. So that is extra expense, extra stress, really.
Correct. And so you may put yourself in extra expense, extra stress, because the very thing that we pay in tax dollars for not being addressed, right? So even thinking about that is stress, because imagine I'm paying for something and not getting the service. So that even is an extra stress on you.
I mean, you know, what you're bringing here, I guess everyone, especially drivers, it really hits home, because I mean, I do get something on PAVE segment, and we give thanks to the powers that be. They look on, they feel, I guess, embarrassed, and they attend to it immediately. But I would love to see a day where our road, the road network, it's complementary. It's complementary to where we're supposed to be as a country that is an energy-based country. Because we've been to parts of the world where, I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, potholes, it's something, it's global. But there are certain places you go where the road is in pristine condition.
Correct.
And you feel relaxed on the road, you're able to maneuver. And it is, I didn't look at it from a place of real PTSD, but I guess from what you explained this morning, it is.
Because I remember once a colleague of mine called and say, you know, she got a flat tire on the Lady Young. And I could pinpoint the exact spot she got the pothole because I'm in the flat tire because I know in that point that pothole is serious. You know? So if I could even perceive that, and I know the stress she went through that morning, and I mean not to be thinking about it, but even as a woman, she by herself, it was a whole because she was asking if I could come and assist her, but luckily she got assistance. So I'm putting it out there that for even citizens to recognize even something as simple as a pothole, what it's doing to you. Because imagine you leave home, you encounter any potholes, you're on your way to work, and what it could do to you. And every little thing, because even sometimes that road rage, you wonder, well, why you vexing road? If you see at least 3-4 potholes, it could get you vexing in the points, you know.
Well, I'm not going to say that even the most calm of drivers, the most holy of drivers, going down in a pothole will test your patience. It will cause a frustration. And the irony is, usually when the front tire, you will go down the front tire with it and then the back tire too. It's the back tire, is the second bang that's really hurt you because the first one, you're in disbelief and you're not even getting a chance to react because the momentum of the car will take the back tire straight into the same hole.
Correct. And that causing a trauma. So let me switch gears quickly. We also have potholes in our lives, right? So if I use the literal pothole, recently a neighbor of mine, she got some workmen, she had some extra material and she filled some of the potholes on the street. And the workmen say, you know, if I had any extra material in my yard, they could put in, etc. And filling it yourself, I remember the joy the neighborhood get, the relief. I see people driving and passing with relief. So one, if sometimes you can't wait until the powers that be do fill the pothole, you have to do it yourself. And some of us, we have potholes in our lives, things that we need to fill, we need to address, that we avoid, that we find ways to meander around it. Whether it is a conversation you need to have with your spouse, a conversation with your child, a relationship you need to patch up, even something in your life. Maybe you need to lose weight. Maybe you need to change your diet in terms of your health. Those are potholes in our lives that sometimes we avoid, and we get skilled at avoiding it also.
Well, as we wrap up, I'll tell you this, and I'll give you your closing remarks as always. The powers that be actually advise against us filling up potholes, you know. They come on the news cycle all the time and say, hey, you know, don't do that, leave it for the professionals. But I mean, I'm just saying.
I hear you.
I'm just saying. But, you know, we have to do what we have to do, right? And I understand exactly what was done in your area because if we wait sometimes, I mean, come on. You can't wait forever, right? Closing remarks, you want to say on this Thursday morning?
Whether it is physical potholes or potholes in your life, ensure and do what's necessary to fill it and not avoid it, because if we avoid those potholes, life could become complicated. Don't make it complicated, because even though life is not easy, it's really not that hard. Thank you for listening.
Johan say IODK, as always, nuggets of inspiration and information every single Thursday. Mental health matters. We head across to Grenada on the Zoom line. Up next, Rondell Fields for the International Men's Day Regional Conference. The man across in the Spice by Granans too, you know? Radisson, what? Rondell, well done. I look forward to that discussion up next.